Nada, super excited for the conversation today. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and share.
You reference you do a lot of work with both organizations and individuals, and you, with a presence in 50 countries, sorry, I'm assuming you've started to now collect enough experiences where patterns are starting to emerge.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what are some of the common things that you see working with clients or with individuals?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we see is there's not enough ownership that's taken on either end. I'm actually reading a great book right now, which I'm sure many people have read by Jocko, which is Extreme Ownership. And that's something that we see a lot, is that it's always, well, the company did this, or my leaders did this, or vice versa. My team does this. And I think that in order to really enhance like companies and individuals, like collectively, they need to always be taking an ownership perspective. Like, what can I do better to help myself? What can I do better to help my team? What are things that I can do to help elevate myself? And I think that's something that we see. There's not enough of that happening. And then another thing that we see around the world is a really big challenge with self-confidence. My team and I asked over 2,000 professionals in 2021 what their number one challenge was. These are professionals that are actively working, not furloughed. And 83% said self-confidence was their number one challenge in the workplace, which is a huge number.
Any insights into why? That seems like a really staggering number. Is it a consequence of the pandemic and people being out of their comfort zones? Is it increased pressure to perform and have success in this world that seemingly is getting faster by the day? Like, what are some of the trends around self-confidence?
Yeah, all of the above. And I wrote a whole book on this because I'm super passionate about this. But unfortunately, we have really done a great injustice, in particular in North America, and putting so much emphasis on building what I call micro-confidence. So micro-confidence is that you build confidence in a category or a competency. I mean, think about our whole education system, right? And this is the same in Europe and overseas. We are taught to build skills in like math, history, right? We're building confidence in these areas, but no one ever teaches us to like feel enough, or to have belief in ourselves, or to understand when we have negative thoughts and how to work through them. And that's what I call the macro confidence that we don't ever get taught. And so as we get older, we're now professionals, and all of our self-worth and our identity is based on these little tiny micro, competencies that we've built along the way, getting degrees, PhDs, master certificates, all this stuff, the job that we have, the title that we have. But the challenge is that those things aren't sustainable. So when they do fall apart, or when you do, get furloughed, or you get a new job, or you don't get that promotion, or you have a leader that maybe doesn't like what you're doing, your whole identity and your being comes crashing down. You don't feel enough. You get in your head, perfectionist mindset, imposter syndrome, all these things come up because no one's ever really taught us to understand who we are and to build what I call macro confidence, which is the understanding that you are enough simply because you exist, not because of any job, degree, certificate, or money that you have.
How have you tried to move the needle on that? How have you tried to work with leaders from a confidence perspective that may be facing this very real realization that I'm not going to be able to make it in my current career for 10 more years. I'm going to have to change and evolve my thinking and pivot. How do you work with people like that and help them see the hope and the optimism for what that is?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And actually, it's a part of our core curriculum, no matter what we're doing with a company or an individual. So actually, most people don't know that confidence is a part of emotional intelligence. It's under the umbrella of EQ, and it's in the very, very first pillar. So there's 4 pillars of EQ. Confidence is under that first pillar. And that's how important it is that if you can't get that right, it's really hard to build anything else. It's hard to be a great leader. It's hard to build a company. It's hard to, drive sales. And so we actually infuse it in our core curriculum, no matter what. If a company comes to us and says, we want diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, we're like, great, you're getting confidence too, because we understand that a big component of this work that we're doing stems from the individual. And what people don't realize, or they don't put 2 and 2 together, is that if you don't feel enough, then you're never, ever going to be able to guide your team or coach your team or lead your team to your full potential, because you're not feeling enough is always going to get in the way of your behavior and responses with them. And so it is a really, really important component that we bring into all of our curriculum, no matter what, because the reality is, and this is what we really press upon with leaders in the workspace and professionals, you can have as many degrees as you want. You can be a genius in your industry. But if you don't have the confidence to take action, to assert, to move the needle forward, all of your education and your background means nothing. And that's really important for us to press upon, especially with leaders as well. Even when we work with leaders that maybe are reacting in a way that's not the best, it usually comes down to confidence. Like there's a thought that they have in their mind that drives the reaction to be not so kind or not so friendly, right? And we've all heard that feeling or that phrase, hurt people hurt, right? So when someone doesn't feel enough or they have these beliefs in their head, they're going to respond according to the narrative that's in their mind, not necessarily like what's the best approach according to this environment and situation.